What are the forces that cause them to change from beginning to the middle to the end of the story? How do the characters in American-born Chinese transform themselves for American society? What can be learned from the Monkey King and the other characters who return to their true form in the novel?
I thought both the Jin and the Monkey King both try to conform to society in order to benefit themselves. And like on page 98, Jin changes his hair like the white dudes have it, so he can get the girl to like him. And then on page 60, the Monkey King comes out of his cave and reveals that he's like more in a human form, and he's done all the kung fu stuff, and all the gods would like him and stuff. And we can see that they both change so much about themselves in order to be viewed better by other people. And then we then learn in the end that at the end of the book that you don't need to necessarily change who you are in order to do great things, because we can see on page 50 when the Monkey King goes back to who he originally was, he was still able to defeat the demons and save the monk guy and help him on his journey. And then later on page 223, he tells Jin that he would have saved himself so much trouble if he would have realized how good it is to be a monkey. And he's kind of just saying that like staying true to yourself is what most people want, even though they don't necessarily realize it.
I agree with you, Alec. I think they both suffer with the fact that they don't like who they are. For the Monkey King, it's not like being accepted in the parties in heaven on page 14. And for Jin, it's like whatever the girl's name was, she doesn't like him, and that's on page 87. And I think so the Monkey King built up his confidence before Jin did, luckily. And then we find out that Ching He was the Monkey King, and he was like placed there just to help Jin realize that, or to help Danny realize that his culture is okay. And I think the Monkey King gets caught for his actions and is told that he's supposed to be a monkey and to accept it. And then like the reason why this happens is because they're both being discriminated against because of like the way they look. And these are both caused by the way they're treated.
Yeah, and I think another thing that was kind of interesting was that like both of them, like both Jin and the Monkey King, were completely fine in their original home. Like the Monkey King was fine on like Flower Fruit Mountain, and Jin was fine when he was living in Chinatown with all of his friends that were similar to him. But then once they moved away, like on page 28, Jin moved to like, I don't remember where he moved, but like he moved to like a more westernized like American city. And so like in that classroom, like even the teacher was like discriminating against him, and that's when he originally was like started to feel that he was different. And then like on page 12, that the Monkey King went to heaven, and like they were discriminating against him because he was a monkey and he didn't have shoes and he couldn't get into the party. And like that's when they finally realized like I'm different now and I need to change to conform to this so that I'm not treated differently.
So like in the beginning, both characters love being themselves, the monkey, would be a monkey, and Jin used to hang with like all the Chinese kids back in Chinatown. But like what caused them to change was like interference from other people. Like on page 32 for Jin, when he came to school and then like the dude was like being racist towards him and saying, don't eat my dog or whatever. And on page 15 when like all people are laughing at him for not having shoes and not being able to get into the party. So like they try to be, just like everyone else. Like for the Monkey King, he tried to be taller and wear shoes and all that stuff, and Jin, became Danny and like changed his hair and all that stuff just to like get a girl and to like be liked by the rest of his class and stuff.
The first page of Jin's story, he was like sitting in the car and he had the transformer, and I just kind of realized like what he said was basically that like I want to be a transformer one day, and then his mother like came back at him and said that that's like not possible. And I just kind of realized that was like the start of the story, but I never really realized, or when I read that for the first time, I had no idea that that was going to be part of the book, just because I was so confused with like the whole Monkey King story. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like use that kind of as my like lesson to be learned. I used what the shopkeeper had said on like page 29. It said like it is easy to become anything you wish so long as you're willing to like forfeit your soul. But then I combined it with like the last lesson we learned on page 223, but you won't be free until you realize how good it is to be a monkey or yourself. Like, the Monkey King couldn't, like, do anything because he was trapped on a rock until he, like, went back to who he was, and, like, Jin kind of turned into Danny, which Danny wasn't always a nice person, so then when he finally turned back, things were a lot better for him. I think it just shows, like, be yourself and it's better.
Yeah, that's what I thought, like, the message of the book was for me, like you're always happier who you are when you, like, release yourself to be, like, your original you, and, like, you can see that on page, like, 150 when the Monkey King, like, releases himself to be the Monkey King instead of the, like, great sage or whatever, and you can see, like, he released himself and then he was free. Like, he spent 500 years under those rocks and, like, he was just imprisoned, and then he released himself to be who he was, and then he could roam free, and, like, I just thought that was a good message.
Yeah. On page 193 and 194, Jin has, like, this dream about, like, the herbalist wife, and it, like, connects it back to the beginning because it's, like, her in the store, like, playing with that, I don't even remember what it's called. And she's like, so little friend, you've done it. Now what would you like to become? And then it, like, shows Jin changing into Danny, and he, like, wakes up and looks in the mirror, and, like, he just, like, smiles at himself and, like, touches his face, and, like, I don't know, it just shows, like, in that moment, like, he just, like, didn't want to be himself. Like, it's kind of like the opposite of what you were saying, like, in the final message of the book. Like, it's like they were comfortable, but at this point in the book they weren't.
And I definitely agree with what Chloe said at first, how when they were with the other people that were like him, like when the Monkey King was with all the other monkeys, he was, like, happy, and when Jin was with all the other Asian kids, he was happy, but then once they got to a place where they were, like, looked down upon by someone else, they wanted to be like the people that were looking down on them. And so when the Monkey King on, like, page 13 went up to the party and he was just growing good against it, they went back and got, like, made everybody wear shoes and, like, tried to change for him to become more human-like. And then like, when Jin moves, and then he on page 98 he, like, changes his hair to look more like the other kids in his class because he wants to just be, like, respected like that.
One thing that I realized, like, at the end of the story was, like, on page 149 when the Monkey King was stuck under the rock. Like, for me, I feel like the rock symbolized his, like, belief that he wanted to be, like, someone other than himself, because, like, once he decided he wanted to get out, like, it didn't seem like it was, like, hard for him to get out. I feel like he just got out right away, and, like, that was kind of, like, the turning point for, like, him to, like, realize that, like, he needed to be himself, and, like, that, like, made him a lot happier. And also with, like, Jin, how we wanted to be like everyone else. One thing was, like, when Li Chen first got there, on page 38, like, Jin didn't want to be friends with him because he, like, saw that as, like, the stereotypical things, but, like, once he got to know him, he realized they had lots of things in common, and, like, they became, like, good friends.
I agree with what everyone said, but I feel like when some people, like, try to fit in society and change who they are, I feel like it's really hard to get back to who you are. And I feel like the book kind of, like, made it really smooth and, like, easy on, like, how they went back to who they are.
They both changed significantly throughout the story, I think, but the Monkey King gained all these powers to fit into his environment and even, like, be better than it, and he had to do this because he was discriminated against.
Was talking about how they changed throughout the story, and I thought that Jin and the Monkey King kind of have similar transformations throughout the story, but especially the Monkey King, he starts out, and at first, like, he's really happy when he's the king of all the monkeys, but then once he realizes that, like, he's considered lower than the other gods, like, then he becomes, like, super arrogant, and he starts trying to learn all the kung fu and stuff so that he can be better than them. And, like, he's really only concerned about himself too. Like, on page 60, he just leaves all the monkeys, even though he's, like, their king, just so that he can go prove that he's better than all the other gods. So he just starts out being really selfish, and, like, he just wants to be like the other people until he realizes that being a monkey is perfectly fine. And then Jin is, like, he starts off, and people are kind of discriminating against him, so that's when he decides to turn to Danny, but then after he realizes that he'd rather be Jin, because he's happy that way.
How do you guys feel about like the big twist and the big reveal of each character on page 213 and 14?
I was pretty shocked.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, but I feel like looking back in the book, like, you definitely, like, it makes sense, like, just going back and being like, I don't know what page it was, but like, when, was it Wei Chen, when he was like with the monkey, and I don't know, they like had a moment, but like, you didn't think anything of it until after, and you were like, oh, because he is a monkey.
I think it definitely took me by surprise, but I expected them to connect at some point because I thought that like the author wouldn't just tell 3 different stories in one book and alternate them without them connecting, because otherwise that would just be confusing. And then also like I agree with Martin that it definitely like once you knew how they all connected, it like made sense looking back, like how the Wei Chen and Wang moment and like how Melanie told Danny that he like had buck teeth and just stuff like that, because I feel like in the moment you kind of just like read it and like passed it, but then looking back on it, it like really emphasizes their stereotype of who they really are.
Personally, I don't think I can connect like as well as some people might to the book, just because I don't have to deal with the stereotypes that they say in the book. So like the message that went across to me, I felt like was harder for me to connect to, just because I have to think of like stereotypes that I get put into. But I really enjoyed like how the book had 3 different types of characters, and they all came together in the end, because I just did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, I think that like made the book more relatable almost, because like even if you're coming from a position, like you can see like, oh, it was in a high school and then like in a home setting, and you know, you can't really relate to animals. Like it just all came together, and like you're saying, the end, like discrimination was evident in 3 different parts, and it just showed that like discrimination is evident kind of like everywhere. It connected at the end.
Yeah, and I feel like we're all like, no matter like if we are discriminated against or not, like I feel like you can relate to stereotyping and labeling people in the certain groups, like, and this book just makes you kind of realize like, even though it might not be you, like, that you realize that it's harmful to other people, and like, it kind of makes you think about things like before you say them, or like how you treat others.